Okay, I'm going to throw that open now to you to ask anything about anything I've said or make comments. Or
How do people get referred to pain clinics? I'm a sufferer myself and have been for 20 years.
Right.
And I'm fortunate that I'm very good at dealing with stress, but I've known people in similar situations, and we've heard of them, but they always seem this thing that's going on somewhere else.
Yeah, it's sometimes it depends, where you live and how well the local doctors know about pain clinics and whether there is a pain clinic where you are, and even if there is a pain clinic, whether it's a pain clinic that actually extends to the kinds of program I'm talking about. You can look on the British Pain Society website, and I think they've got a list of pain clinics, or there are some self-help organisations for specific kinds of pain. There's thinkback.org, which has a sort of online pain management program, and will also it has a list of where there are pain clinics. So the normal route should be from your GP to either a physiotherapy or an orthopaedic surgeon or a rheumatologist. That's the usual things, and then one or other of those people would refer you to the pain specialist, and that would get you into the pain clinic, and then if the pain clinic has got a pain management program, they would refer you on to that. That's how it should work, but it's, as I say, it's not how it works everywhere in the country, but you can find places for yourself, or your GP may know. Okay. Any other questions, comments? Yes.
Going back to when you said earlier about pain just being in your mind and people tell you it's just in your mind.
Yeah.
Well, then what do you think about placebo pills and how it seems to work for some people?
Yeah. I can't give you an answer because nobody knows why they work. But you all know, I guess, that when they do drug trials, for instance, they look for over 60% response, because 30% of people will report improvement on the placebo, on the dummy, and nobody really knows how it works. But I think it takes away a lot of things, doesn't it? If you think, I'm getting some treatment, then you can relax a bit and feel, well, it's out of my hands, somebody else is looking after me. And if you relax, then the pain's likely to be better. Or it may simply take the focus away from whatever's the problem, so that you don't, you're less aware of it. It's still there, but you're less aware of it. You're not focusing on it. And the weird thing is that the placebo effect works on everything, not just pain. It works on actual things that are more measurable, rashes or all sorts of things, and nobody fully understands that.
It's probably what you've been saying. You start thinking more positively when you've taken that pill, because you think your problem's being taken care of, so now I can relax.
Yeah.
So that's probably...
Yeah, I'm sure that's part of it. And when, like I said earlier, today we did a session on complementary therapies for our patients. And the thing with complementary therapies is that anything that's shown to be effective, broadly effective for 2/3 of the people, gets hijacked by the orthodox medical establishment, because if something works, they're going to use it. They're there to make people better. So the ones that don't get taken on are the ones that don't work for that number of people, but they will work whatever that means. And of course you have to ask yourself, how would you know something had worked? What would you be looking for? But they will work to some extent for some people. It's just that nobody can say which people. And the kind of common denominator with a lot of the complementary therapies is that they are relaxing. Having a massage, even having needles stuck into you for acupuncture, because you've got a relationship with your therapist, you get the same kind of placebo thing, that you feel somebody's taking notice and helping, and it's relaxing. And I think that if you swallow something, it's the same. Right.
Can chronic pain be genetic?
I don't know if it's genetic, but I think it can run in families, and I think your response to pain is going to be modified by your experience of pain through your childhood and how you've observed other people experience pain. And it's certainly the case that a lot of the people I see have got parents who have been crippled with arthritis, or they've had other less specific aches and pains. And then I think a lot of the people who then have long-term pain, instead of being able perhaps to ignore it, to get used to it, they're constantly saying to themselves, am I going to end up like my mother or like my father, and what's going to happen? There may be a genetic component. I mean, certainly that there are studies that show that certain races are more tolerant of pain than others, and it's said, I don't know if this has been borne out in recent research, I'm not up to date, but it's said that blue-eyed people are less tolerant of pain than brown-eyed people. I don't know if it's true. And then, I mean, it's hugely cultural. We have a lot of back pain in this country, do we not? And in the Western world, there's a huge amount of back pain. I forget how many days' work are lost every year from people with back pain. But if you go to countries where people either work or they starve, they don't get back pain. Well, they do get back pain, but they don't. They're able to tolerate it better. They don't feel that has to stop them from working. Well, it hasn't to stop them working, or they'll starve. So it is hugely cultural and maybe a bit genetic.
Is there a specific sort of disease to describe people who seem to like pain a little bit too much? You know, I mean, there's the hypochondriac, someone who always thinks they're ill. Is there I mean, do you ever come into contact with people that seem to be almost sort of addicted to pain and always feel that they need to feel it? Is that not necessarily that they even enjoy it, but they just always feel like they're suffering with something? You know, is there a specific condition, or is that what you'd call a hypochondriac, or?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. There are some people who enjoy ill health, and that's usually a social, or it's to do with social issues in their lives, either ones that they've grown up with or ones that have evolved, and they, in a way, seem to need to have the pain either to keep their relationships with the people around them in a way that they feel safe with, or to give them an excuse not to work. Or I've seen quite a lot of people who have had to stop work because of pain, and when I've actually seen them and talked to them and found out more about their lives, I've seen quite a number who are dyslexic or illiterate. They can't read and write, and what seems to have happened is that they had manual jobs which over the last, I suppose, decade or two have become more and more to do with reading and writing, because everybody has to use a computer. They have to record what they've done and send out invoices or get people to sign this or that. And what would you rather say to your friends and family? You know, I had to stop work because I got a bad back, or actually I'm so stupid I can't read and write. No, they're not stupid, but that's how they're going to feel. So I think for those people, having a bad back is very useful. And I don't think that they are people who don't have bad backs. I think they do have bad backs. But perhaps if they had been able to cope with the overall work situation, they'd have been able to carry on with work, or at least not be quite so disabled by their bad back.
And there would be an external stress as well, wouldn't it? So it would cause potential.
Yeah.
My brother has this technique. He's in the forces, and he's got this technique for dealing with headaches, where he does what I can only describe as a double Vulcan neck pinch.
Right.
And it hurts.
Yeah.
Really, really hurts.
Yeah.
To the point where you actually white out slightly.
Yes.
And try and beat him off you. But as soon as he lets go, any headache you have just disappears, and you feel fantastic.
Yes.
Is that because he's kind of broken the gates down,
Yeah.
or is that because he's done a really deep tissue? Has he done the muscle, or is that the head?
It's probably a bit of both, isn't it? I mean, probably it does cause the muscles to relax. I mean, if you put enough heat or enough cold on your muscles, then often they will relax when they've been in spasm. But the other thing is that he's giving another sensation, as you say, which is pushing through the gates. So there's massage, there's acupuncture, does that to an extent. TENS machine was spoken about, and there are some creams and things that you can put on. There's capsaicin cream, which is made out of the capsicum pepper, so it's actually an irritant, a skin irritant. But some people find that very helpful because it gives another sensation which is more tolerable than the pain.
Is it like DP when they've got football injuries and just the magic sponge as it used to be? Now it just comes out of a spray can and smells strange.
Yes.
People forget it a little bit.
Yeah. Either heat or cold can have the same effect.
Another thing I was wondering is it true to say that nowadays people feel more pain on account of they're more sort of tuned into it? I mean, in the past when people had a lot more physical labour in the West or in other parts of the world where they still do have very much more physical labour, you know, they would laugh at some of the things that people complain about in the Western world. Someone who sits in an office chair all day and just does this, you know, having days off, weeks off for back trouble, and you know, you've got people in other parts of the world with, you know, carrying half a car on their back or something, or you know, pedaling a bike with 8 people on it all day long. Things like that. I mean, is there sort of any sort of research into that, and whether that's a phenomenon, or is that just, you know, or are these things just relative?
No, I think it's definitely the case. I mean, anaesthesia has only been around since the middle of the 19th century, and before that, and I mean, that there's an element of this that continues. People thought that pain was actually good for the soul. And anaesthesia in this country only really caught on, so I'm told, thanks to Queen Victoria, who kept having all these babies, and she said, you know, if there's something to stop this hurting, I'm jolly well going to use it. And it became respectable, and up till then, it wasn't regarded as respectable to want to stop having pain. And of course, we're so removed now in our sort of culture from our sort of biological basis that we expect everything to be pain-free. We expect to live forever, never to have a disability, be pain-free, and all our food to come pre-wrapped in plastic. So we are hugely removed from biology and our own bodies. And then when we do become aware of anything untoward, I think we overreact. Our mind's going to overdrive.
Sort of following on from that, I'm a great believer that stress is the cause of all evils. And there seems to be a lot more stress around nowadays, almost because life is supposed to be more perfect than it actually is. Do you think if we taught pain coping strategies to pretty much everybody who anywhere goes near a doctor, that there would be less chronic pain?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think people need to learn this at infant school, really. Learn about their bodies, learn what to worry about and what not to worry about. And the other thing is that, yes, there's more stress around, more of the internal stress, I would say. Because I think, going back a few generations, that life was a lot harder, but because you actually had to do things to make it less hard, you discharged all that energy. Instead of the tension building up without you being able to do anything about it, you could go out and dig your potatoes or build your house or whatever else it was. We don't have those physical demands on us now, but we do have other kinds of things to worry about, which we can't kind of do anything about. We just build up.
On a day-to-day basis, what can people do physically and emotionally in terms of their thoughts to combat pain?
Right, that's a whole pain management program, but in essence, on the relaxation front, it's mostly when we talk about relaxation, we think about what we do at the end of a busy day, crash out on the sofa in front of the television with a drink in our hands or whatever. And that's fine, and that's a good thing to do to unwind. But what you're trying to achieve if you've got a pain problem is to make sure that you don't have any more tension in your muscles than you need in the position you're in. So what you need to be doing is checking up all day, every day, that you haven't got extra tension. So the idea is that hopefully you wake up in the morning without too much muscle tension, and then you set your watch to beep every hour, and every hour you go through the muscle groups and just make sure that they're not holding more tension than they need to. And what we try and teach people is how to do that anywhere, anytime, because although it's quite nice to be able to go into a dark room and lie down and do it fully, it's not very convenient in the middle of Sainsbury's. So you need to be able to just get rid of that extra tension, not necessarily do the full deep relaxation, although that's useful as well. So there's that. Recognizing the thoughts, and that's often very difficult to do. Whatever we do is dictated by really our feelings, and the feelings that we have are aroused by the thoughts that we have. But we often don't see those links. We do something and we don't realise why we did it and can't track back. So learning to track back so that you know that you got upset because of whatever it was, and then being upset made you tense up, and then being tensed up made your pain worse, is really helpful. And finding those unhelpful thoughts that make you upset in different situations, like when you're reminded about your pain and you start to worry about whether you're going to end up in a wheelchair. Interestingly, doctors, I don't think these days ever tell people you're going to end up in a wheelchair. I don't think they ever tell people you've got a crumbling spine. And I don't think they tell people you've got the spine of an 80-year-old. I don't think they say that. They used to, but I don't think they say those things these days. But we still get the pain patients coming in saying, oh, my doctor said I've got a crumbling spine. He said I'd end up in a wheelchair, and actually my body's like that of an 80-year-old. And I think that what's happening is that they're not really hearing what's being said, and their fears are taking over, their thoughts are taking over. And they're going into this spiral of catastrophic thinking, leading to distress, leading to tension, leading to more pain, and focusing on their pain. So it's getting, this is part of it, learning about pain, learning what's real and what isn't real, learning about bodies in general, their own bodies, and then reminding themselves. And sometimes I say to people, if you've got a repeated negative thought that crops up that's making you distress, and you've been able at a calm moment to think of a more positive thought, a more helpful thought in that situation, cut out bits of cardboard in different shapes. Put your negative, your unhelpful thoughts on one side, and your coping thoughts, your more useful thoughts on the other side. Carry them in your pocket. And then when you find yourself getting distressed, feel, oh, that's a triangle. Yes, yeah, I am feeling like a triangle today, but I know that the other side of that triangle is whatever it is. And the sorts of things are, I should be able to cope with this, which sounds like a very positive thought, but actually in itself just drives people to try and do things that they're not going to be able to cope with in the old way that they used to do them. If the flip side of that is, if I pace and plan and prioritise what I do, I can manage to survive this difficult situation without having a major flare-up of pain. Okay, and that's just a quick thought of something that people often come up with. Other things are, if you're taking medication, taking it by the clock so that you're not having to monitor your pain to know when to take it, and also so that you keep a helpful level in your blood all the time. Pacing and planning your activities so that you plan to rest halfway to the letterbox rather than saying, I'll keep walking until the pain's too bad, because then you have to monitor your pain. And using all those strategies to enable you to have a full life.
if you're active, so if you're concentrating on your pain, then it's worse.
Yeah.
If you're actively doing something else or thinking or engaged in another activity, will that stop? Does that block the pain?
Yeah. It doesn't stop the actual whatever's going on in the body, but it will stop your awareness of it. And I've had a number of people who, as a result of coming to a pain management program, have said to me, look, in the end I realised I could sit at home and be in pain, or I could go out and watch my son play football and I'd still be in pain, but I'd actually be enjoying myself because I was watching my son playing football. So keeping active doesn't make the pain disappear. If you're lucky, it will totally stop you being aware of it. Or it may just be something that's in the background that you become aware of from time to time, but actually you're concentrating on the other thing that you're enjoying.
I've actually tried, or my friends kind of hate me for it, but if they've like stubbed their toe on a table and their eyes are watering from it, I have a bad habit of pinching them somewhere else.
Yes.
So they start hurting somewhere else more, and then sometimes they scream at me saying, well, now I'm hurting in both places, but they're so busy screaming at me that I don't think they appreciate that and they can forget the pain. But I think it actually works.
Yes.
So.
And the other thing that's helpful is if you have a crisis in your life, I wouldn't recommend that actually, but people sometimes come along and say, well, the amazing thing was I had this disaster happening at home and I had to be rushing around making phone calls and so on, and I was able to do it all. I didn't notice my pain, but the moment things got better at home, then my pain came back. Yeah.
Thank you very much.